Welcome back. As mentioned, our guest today is 14th Judicial Circuit Judge Jim Fensom. We talked a little bit about your challenges, and for my next question, I know you've already mentioned the fact that you really did take to the dependency issues and took pride in facilitating some of those. But aside from that, what are some of the joys of your job?
Well, frequently when we're having a hearing and some of the experienced attorneys will understand how it's going, I understand how it's going, and I will on occasion say, wouldn't this be a good time to take a 15-minute break and let y'all step out in the hall and see if you can possibly resolve some of these issues? There are 2 or 3 issues that I think that should be looked at. And just with that little bit of nudging, frequently I'm able to get the parties to step out in the hall and come back in and say, Judge, we were able to resolve issues 1, 2, and 3, but we need to have a little more evidence on 4, or resolve the entire case. And that's satisfying, because when a case is resolved without the judge ruling, there's no appeal. Everybody's maybe not happy, but they're satisfied, and the case is over. And one thing I like to do, and I'm proud of my record on doing, is reaching a decision that does not result in another trial or another hearing or a redo. And I've had very few cases that have come back on appeal. Of course, all of us have some, because there are some close cases, but I've had very few of those come back.
Yeah, and the entire judicial system is very expensive. There's nothing that doesn't cost, whether you're the plaintiff or the defendant. You've got an attorney, you've got attorney's fees, you've got investigators and all of that. Then from a judicial side, just courthouse costs, if nothing else. Ballpark, just for curiosity, how many cases are resolved before they come to trial, would you say?
Most cases, in the high 90%. Of the criminal cases the felony cases that I have about 1,000 people charged with a crime, charged with a felony each year in my division. 1,000, 80 or so, 70, 80 a month, new people charged with a felony. And we have a few trials each month, but it's a tiny percentage of the actual number of cases tried. And even to try a simple case, by the time you get the jury in, you select the jury, you bring the witnesses in, you have opening statements, witnesses, closing argument, jury deliberation, it's very difficult to try a case in less than 1 day. Of course, of those 1,000 people that are charged in the division that I'm in, many of those cases are transferred to county court. They're resolved some other way. Some of them are dismissed. Sometimes people want to drop charges, but they're quite a volume that informations are filed on, and they proceed forward with the case, and many of those are resolved by negotiation.
You were originally appointed to the bench by then Governor Jeb Bush of Florida 8.5 years ago. Is that correct?
Correct.
Talk about how that happened, what transpired.
Well, in the appointment process, you go before a local committee made up of local non-lawyers, lay people, and some lawyers. And you go before this 9-member committee, and they look into your background. They appoint somebody to investigate you. They look into the cases you've handled. They look into the trials you've had. They talk to your clients. They talk to the judges. They talk to the other attorneys. And then after that committee has reviewed and interviewed each of the applicants, in my case there were 14 applicants, 4 of us were nominated to go to the governor, and we go to the governor's office and interview with his staff and go back through the same procedure. So they actually look at your qualifications, they look at your background, they talk to your client. It's certainly not a lawyer-dominated or a judge-dominated procedure. The lay people are involved, and of course the governor's office is involved. And they're looking for people that are qualified and that the governor would be proud to appoint.
So certainly something that's not done frivolously or lightly. There's certainly, it's a weighty matter.
Oh, no question about that.
I guess I have a hard time understanding why someone would challenge a sitting judge, especially with the length of time that you've got on the bench and the experience that you've got. But I guess that's what makes our country great, and that is our election process. What's your biggest challenge right now during campaign season?
Well, that I still have a full-time job. That is my biggest challenge, is trying to deal with what I have going on in my office and in the courtroom and hearings I have set, and be out in meeting with the public, because I'm simply not in a position that I'm able to be politicking 40 hours a week during the regular work time. I do have some cases that resolve, and I get some time here and there, but I certainly don't have a full I don't have full time available, so that does make it somewhat more challenging.
Yeah, and thank you for that segue, because my next question was, how in the world do you do it and work at the same time? I know that you and your wife have been spending some time over here, just as you have in the other 5 counties, and it's got to be challenging.
Well, I'm pretty well working 7 days a week on one thing or another, either at work or campaigning or catching up with things at work. And of course, the other judges will cover for me when I'm in a bind. I mean, they're very helpful in understanding I have time commitments, and other judges are covering for me. So I've been able to to get pretty good coverage and have some time available, and I'll have some more time available in the future. But it's simply, there's no way I can be available every day to go to events and such as that.
Despite that, you've done a pretty good job of spending time with us over here in Washington County, so thank you for that. Let me just ask you candidly, why should I vote for you to continue on as judge for the 14th Judicial Circuit?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I started trying cases when I was a second-year law student. Much of what a judge does is conduct things that happen in courtroom and in hearings. In litigation, as an attorney, I prosecuted criminal cases. As a attorney in private practice, I then defended some criminal defense cases. I've handled just about every kind of civil case you can handle, from medical malpractice to car wrecks to products liability, trademark infringements, anything of that nature, on both sides, representing individuals, representing small businesses, representing large businesses. In addition to that experience that I had, I think you mentioned I've tried over 100 jury trials, which each trial you learn something. And when I would have an appeal as an attorney, I would do the brief. I would do the paperwork on the appeal. I myself would go to Tallahassee and handle the appeal. I myself would argue the appeal before the First District Court of Appeal, which is the three appellate judges that you would argue before. And when you go before them, it's 3 very sharp judges, and they ask you every difficult question they can dream of. And that makes you think in your next trial, now what can I do to improve, and what areas should I be working on? So that's a tremendous benefit. And when I was 32 years old, I argued a case in the Florida Supreme Court, a property rights case. And then you have 7 justices of the Florida Supreme Court, and they come out and they grill you. And when I say grill you, they do. They ask you every hard question you can think of. And I was able to handle those things. And with this depth of experience that I've had, civil, criminal, plaintiff, defendant, prosecutor, criminal defense attorney, I would submit that my qualifications are pretty thorough.
Yeah, it'd be hard to argue that. Thank you for taking the time today. It's always a pleasure to see you and your wife, Jan, and hopefully you're going to get some more time to be able to spend with us at what we call the real Florida, Holmes, Jackson, and Washington County. Obviously, we live in Washington, so we're a little biased, but this area we feel is just offers tremendous assets, the natural resources, the people, the business. It's still a relaxed lifestyle, and we certainly enjoy it. So, again, thanks for taking the time today, and come back often.
Well, thank you. I've always enjoyed the area. I think I have canoed down every stream in our Panhandle area, and hunted in much of it and fished in much of it. And I just have always thoroughly enjoyed the area.
Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
Today we've enjoyed another in our series of Meet the Candidates. Today with 14th Judicial Circuit Judge Jim Fensom, running for that position again, with the primary coming up August 26th. The intent of our show is to hopefully ensure that you are not an under-informed voter. It's important that you vote. That is your right and your duty. But more importantly, you should vote from an informed position. And if you don't take the time to learn what the issues are, if you don't take the time to learn who the candidates are, you're simply not going to be able to make the correct choice at the end of that day. So thanks for being part of our show. Thanks for watching. Again, we'll be back with another in our series of Meet the Candidates. And in the meantime, hopefully you'll enjoy, as we do, what we call right here in the real Florida. We'll be right back.